everyone, welcome back. Today's video is a comparison between the new Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation and Estee Lauder Double Wear. About 1 week ago, I put up a first impressions video of the new Charlotte Tilbury Foundation, and I promised you all an update. And in thinking about how I wanted to do the update, I thought, why don't I compare it to another popular foundation, one that a lot of people might already be using and loving and wanting to know, is this one better? Should I switch? What's so great about it? And the reason why I chose the Estee Lauder Double Wear as the other option to compare the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush to was because they sounded so similar. They're both medium to full coverage, long wearing, and also I noticed a lot of people were asking, how does this compare to Estee Lauder? Whether it was on my Instagram or my video or on other people's reviews of the Charlotte Tilbury, a lot of people were asking, how does it compare to the Estee Lauder Double Wear? So I decided that I was going to compare the two. So that's what this video is going to be all about. I'm going to be showing you a demonstration, an application demonstration, and then I am going to show you what it looked like at the end of a 10-hour day. And then at the end, I'm going to give you my final thoughts on what I believe are the differences between the two, if there are any. If you're using Double Wear, do I think you should switch over to the Charlotte Tilbury? So all of that's going to be answered at the end. So let's get started with the demo of the two foundations. Okay, so I've decided to do this comparison without any primer underneath. I felt like that was just the best way to go because not everyone wears primers. So I just wanted to be able to show you guys how they compare on bare skin. The only thing I have on, so my face is not completely bare, I do have on some moisturizer. I used my Belief Aqua Moisturizer. I have very oily skin, just for reference. And we're gonna see how the coverage differs and if I get a longer wear time out of one or the other. So let's just get to the application. I'm gonna start by applying the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush on this side of my face, the left side. I am in the shade 6 Neutral. If you've not yet seen my first impressions video, I will link that in the description as well. I'm just going to pump a little bit on the back of my hand. I'm going to use about that much. I would say that's about half a pump. If you did watch my first impressions video, you know that I used way too much for that demo. And I'm going to apply both foundations using my Stands Out Beauty sponge. It's a little memory foam sponge that I happen to really like. I'm just going to go in and apply the Charlotte Tilbury. Oh, I just got something in my eye. It's not a good way to start off a video. So as you can see, this is a highly concentrated product, and a little bit goes a long way. And it dries pretty quickly. In just that short amount of time that I was talking before I began the application, the foundation dried a lot on my hand. So you do have to work pretty quickly, I would say. And I would say that this gives some really nice medium to full coverage. And then in the Estee Lauder Double Wear, I am in the shade 3W1 Tawny, and I am going to show you a comparison when I'm done. I'll swatch the two side by side. So I'm going to do the same thing. It's a little bit runnier, I would say, in consistency. So that's the amount of Double Wear that I'm using. And this one is less yellow. It is giving me a very similar medium coverage. It doesn't spread as easily as the Charlotte Tilbury. The Charlotte Tilbury, as I mentioned, is a lot more concentrated, so a little bit spreads a long way, whereas this one is not really spreading. This is the only area that I could cover with that amount. I need to go back in and add more for this area right here. So I'm going to go in and add probably about that same amount that I applied the first time, but now I have to use it to cover this area. So I feel like you would use a lot less of the Charlotte Tilbury. And this is, a similar amount of coverage. I know a lot of people say that they feel like the Estee Lauder Double Wear looks heavy and cakey, but I don't think so. Ooh, this is gonna be tough because I really like both of these foundations so much. Now that I have both sides on, I'm honestly not seeing that much of a difference. I don't think anybody would notice that I'm wearing two different foundations. Yeah, this side is just a hair yellow, but again, I think it's undetectable in natural light. I think in these lights, it tends to emphasize, even though I tried to sort of turn down my ring light so it's not so bright and washed out, I really want you guys to get the truest color. I am going to be moving this filming area upstairs to a room with more natural light very, very soon. So again, let me look closer. I'm kind of surprised because the Charlotte's supposed to be so pore smoothing and I've been so in love with it the last few days. I have to admit, I'm surprised to see that the Double Wear is making my pores look nicer. This side, my pores look a little bit bigger than this side. I mean, I'm being super nitpicky right now, but yeah, I'm surprised. Charlotte Tilbury dries so much faster than the Double Wear. The Double Wear is still very, very tacky, but the Charlotte Tilbury is completely dry. So I am going to finish up my makeup, put my blush on, my under eye concealer. I'm gonna set both sides with the, I think I'm gonna set them both with the Huda Beauty baking powder. I actually will most likely show you when I'm done with my makeup, some photos or some video in natural light. All right, I'll check in with you soon. Okay, obviously I have applied the rest of my makeup, and this is the side with the Charlotte Tilbury, and this is the side with the Estee Lauder. And I will say that I felt like when I was looking in my mirror up here in my vanity in the more natural-ish light, well, definitely more natural than what was downstairs in my filming area, my pores actually did look better on this side. I feel like this foundation, after a few minutes, it sort of settles and smooths out the pores, whereas this one, my pores don't look bad, but I feel like now this side looks better. But as far as anybody being able to tell if I had two different foundations on, I still don't think you can. I think that even though this was more yellow, it's not, as I thought, it's not showing up in natural light. I asked my husband if he thought that I was wearing two different foundations, and he said no. All right, guys, it's about 10 p.m., so I've had both foundations on now for 11 hours-ish, and I have looked in every mirror in my house, every light situation, and I've concluded that these are basically the same foundation. Truly, they look the same. They've looked the same all day. They looked virtually identical when I first applied them. Looks the same now. I think after 10 hours, it looks pretty good. I think if I powdered, it would look, I would still feel comfortable going out like this. They both have sort of lost coverage around my nose. This is the area that I always seem to lose coverage. So that's why I really like to try to remember to use a face primer before foundation, because especially the Hourglass Veil, it really seems to keep my oiliness in check through the T-zone, hence keeping the makeup on a little bit better. So I think they both look good. They're both, I can't say that one is better than the other really at this point. So what I think I'm gonna do now, because I'm just really tired, I'm one of those people that goes to bed pretty early, like around 10:30, but I get up around 5:30 in the morning. So I'm ready for bed, and I think I will just come back and give you my final thoughts tomorrow. Okay, now that I'm not exhausted and I have a clear head, I can put my thoughts together and summarize all of this for you. I'm gonna start with the cost of both of these foundations. They're each 1 ounce, and the Charlotte Tilbury retails for $44. The Estee Lauder retails for $43. So there isn't really a price difference. I believe you still have to buy the pump separately in the Estee Lauder, whereas the Charlotte Tilbury comes with a pump, which I personally prefer, and I do think the packaging is nicer. This is also a cruelty-free product, and the Estee Lauder is not, and I know that's really important to a lot of people. So make note of that if you're looking for cruelty-free, this is the one you want to go to. Also, the shade selection. The Charlotte Tilbury comes in 44 shades. The Estee Lauder comes in 50 or 55. So there is more of a shade selection in the Estee Lauder. I've been wearing this product off and on for several years, so I've pretty much nailed down my color. I had to purchase the Charlotte Tilbury online without seeing the other shades, and I purchased 6 neutral thinking neutral would be a safe bet. However, it definitely, as you saw, leaned towards the yellow. And I'm hearing in other reviews from other people that have chosen 3N or 5N that those aren't very neutral either. So the shade selection concerns me a little bit, although I will say that it did take me several tries before I got the correct color in the Estee Lauder Double Wear. So my suggestion is to, if you can, go see this foundation in person and get color matched. I am wearing the 6N again right now, and I think that it looks fine. I've worn it for the past several days, and I really feel like once it settles in and I'm not putting it up against a more neutral foundation, that it looks just fine. It's definitely a stark contrast when you put it up against one that's not quite as yellow. But when it's worn all over and brought down to my chest and in a natural light rather than these studio lights, I think it looks really, really good. The bottom line here, I feel, is that if you are already a user and lover of Estee Lauder Double Wear, you will definitely like this one too. You're going to get that similar staying power, that similar coverage. The good thing about this is that it does contain some skincare ingredients. The claims are that it is going to help reduce the look of fine lines by, I think they said 20% in 8 weeks. It also supposedly boosts your skin's hydration levels within an hour by a couple 100%. Of course, I haven't used it long enough to know if those claims are true, but if that's important to you, having some extra skincare benefits, then you might want to switch. As far as which one is better at controlling oil or pore refining, I would say, again, they're pretty equal. There wasn't much of a difference as far as pore smoothing. I was really, really hoping, because of the claims that this one makes you look poreless, that I would look poreless. However, I really feel like it's the powder that's used on top of it and or the primer that's used underneath it that gives you that poreless look. In my first impressions video, I applied my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish powder on top, and I have to say I did look pretty poreless. But that being said, I could put that same powder over my Estee Lauder Double Wear, and that looks pretty poreless too. So on the flip side, I'm saying that if you like the Double Wear, you'll like the Airbrush Flawless Foundation. But the other side of that is, if you don't like the Estee Lauder Double Wear, you probably won't like this Charlotte Tilbury. That's just my opinion. I'm just being 100% honest with you. This is a lot of coverage. You do have to be careful with the amount that you use. I have heard, as I mentioned in the video, a lot of people say that they think that the Estee Lauder is really heavy and cakey and difficult to remove, but that they found this Charlotte Tilbury to be lighter weight and easier to remove. I personally didn't find that to be true, because I've honestly never found the Estee Lauder to be heavy and cakey. Maybe that's because I am used to wearing full coverage, and being a makeup artist, maybe my application method is a little bit more perfected. There is a definite way you want to apply a full coverage foundation that's different from when you're applying a very sheer or lightweight foundation or a tinted moisturizer, something like that. Full coverage foundations are definitely trickier. So your skin prep is really important. Your application method is also extremely important. So again, if you are someone who is used to wearing Charlotte Tilbury's Light Wonder or even her Magic Foundation that's a little bit lighter, I would say just get a sample of this first, because there's a chance that you might love it just for your special occasions, those instances where you do want more full coverage, but I think it's going to be a little shock to the system if you're used to wearing something that's much lighter. If you're used to wearing a fuller coverage foundation like Estee Lauder Double Wear or MAC Studio Fix Fluid, this isn't going to be much of a transition. It is a really nice product, and I would definitely recommend it to someone with combination to oily skin. Now, Michelle, my friend Michelle Wong, who I originally was supposed to do the First Impressions collab with, she is supposed to be putting up her review today of this foundation, and she has drier skin. We both have mature skin. We're both over 40, but she has dry skin. So she's going to tell you how it performed on her and her thoughts on it. I already know some of her thoughts. She did share them with me, and I kind of told her the same thing. that if you didn't like the Estee Lauder Double Wear, you probably aren't going to like this one. So yeah, I hope that this video helped some of you. Did I cover everything? Oh, flashback. I know a lot of people want to know about how these foundations photograph, and I think they both photograph well. I've never had a problem with Estee Lauder Double Wear causing flashback. I haven't had any issues. I've worn this now for about a week, almost every single day, and for at least a few hours each day. And I've taken lots of pictures, no flashback. So all told, I feel like these are very, very similar foundations. And the only reason to switch from your Estee Lauder Double Wear, if you love it, to the Charlotte Tilbury is if you are looking for something that is cruelty-free and that has a few more skincare benefits. All right, that'll do it for this comparison between the new Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation and the Estee Lauder Double Wear. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you are not already subscribed to my channel, it would be great if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell and become part of my awesome Risa Does Makeup family. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter under the same username. It's all Risa Does Makeup. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.